You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, isn't it?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday, September 30th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Thank you. Subscribe, tell a friend or two or 10 about what we're doing each and every day here, each and every weekday at 10 a.m. Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We're also live on X. X has been very, very good to us. So if you are watching on X, we appreciate that. We appreciate the feedback, all those kind of things as well. And also you can check us out on all the podcasting platforms as well. Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Podbean, you name it. Put Off the Air with Matt Randazzo into wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the show each and every day. It's a beautiful last day of September. Feels like middle of July outside. So if you're going for a run tonight, going to work out, whatever you're doing, cutting grass, any of that stuff, you can check us out on the podcasting platforms as well and check out Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Also, a welcome to our viewers in Central Iowa. Once again, loving the feedback. Got a big week, especially when it comes to some Central Iowa people later on this week. Hoping to get Tim DeWhite on the show tomorrow and efforting to get Iowa assistant basketball coach Josh Sash as well this week. So a lot of great stuff coming up. Also today, some good stuff coming up, especially when it involves the center of the state of Iowa. We'll get to that in just a second. But first and foremost today, postseason baseball is officially back. So many great rivalries to open up postseason. You've got Tigers and Guardians. You've got Red Sox and Yankees. But the one, of course, we're focused on here is postseason baseball is officially back for the Chicago Cubs. They will take the field at 2:08. First pitch against the Padres. Matthew Boyd taking the mound for the Cubs. So game one, best of three. Every game at Wrigley Field. So see if the Cubs can use that home field advantage and get their way to another round. I believe the Brewers would be waiting the winner of that. If the Cubs wins, it will be the Brewers, which is a fantastic rivalry as well. So we'll talk about the Cubs throughout the show. Right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. But coming up on today's show in a matter of moments, I know it's not Wednesday, and usually we always kick off our Wednesdays with Jake Brend and a Cyclone update. Jake from the Cyclone Fanatic. We moved him up a day with a lot of stuff coming later this week. So Jake Brend in a matter of moments, I guarantee you we'll talk about the Cubs. But then the Cyclones, 5-0 on the season, an impressive victory against Arizona, and now a road game. And they'll be an underdog when they head to Cincinnati. So Jake Brend coming up in a matter of moments. Also coming up later in hour number one, the first quarter of the season is done in the NFL. I know it's not really the way it is now with 17 games, but I think somebody said 23.5% of the season is over now. The Bears in an early bye week. I wanted to break down, obviously, the 2-game winning streak, what it means, what do they got to get done during the bye, and then what's left ahead when it comes to the Chicago Bears. So Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears joining us in just a little bit. So that'll be fun to kind of do some Bears talk as well right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Excuse me, a little cough button there early on a Tuesday. Also, on the high school gridiron, we're going to hit both states. North Scott playing some really good football. They started districts off with a victory. They're 3-2. They got a 2-game winning streak. They get Western Dubuque coming up this week in what's become a really good rivalry. Tony Stewart will talk to us about that. Also about a former player, Jace Smith, right now kicking for the Cyclones up in Ames. So Tony Stewart coming up in hour number 2, and then Tony Gripp as well. The Annawan-Wethersfield Titans are 5-0 in the season. So we'll talk to him about their fast start. And then also they got a matchup of unbeatens coming up on Friday with Stark County at 5-0 as well. So a lot of things to get to throughout the show right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. I'll remind everybody we are on the road once again on Friday. Last Friday we went to Rock Ridge, brought the Rockets a victory. I'm trying to think as we've gone along. We went to Pleasant Valley week 1. We won't talk about that, but Geneseo, they got a victory. Rock Ridge, they got a victory. We're going to Moline coming up. Beautiful Browning Field, new look, new turf, all that kind of stuff. So the show will be from Browning Field coming up on Monday. Friday. So we're excited about that as well. Tomorrow we have Nest Guests. Nest Guest was rough on me this week, but so much great feedback from that. Thank you to Hungry Hobo for sponsoring Nest Guests and our next guest pool. We'll have a bunch of that kind of stuff. We're recording at 4, or our segment, I should say, today at 4 from a Hungry Hobo. I think Rock Island we're going to go to today. So always a lot of fun. Excuse for me to have Hungry Hobo, and it should be a lot of fun. So that's coming up tomorrow. We mentioned hoping to get Tim DeWhite, Josh Sash, a bunch of other great stuff coming up this week as well. And before we get going on our guests today, I had a fun night last night, and I got to team up with somebody that I haven't gotten to. I see him, but I haven't gotten to team up with when it comes to an event or anything like that. November 10th was the last time. So getting close to 11 and a half months or 10 and a half months. But it was a great night for the Student Hunger Drive over at the River Bend Food Bank. The kickoff party, Jana Gallagher there invited me to co-MC it with that smiling guy in the middle, Corey Cuffler. Spent 15 years rocking and rolling with Corey as my Batman. I'm Robin, I think. And it's more him being Batman. But it was fun to get the dynamic duo back together again. We had a blast. It's an awesome event. Student Hunger Drive kicked off last night. It runs for 6 weeks. Any of the schools out there, anybody that knows how you can participate or you're asked to participate or donate, do so. The kids were awesome. They did skits. They did all those kind of fun things. It was Moline winning that competition. So they got 2,000 pounds of food from Hy-Vee. But Dave Heller was there. Everybody gets that from the winning tier gets a ticket to the River Bandits game. Kevin Rudd from the Wheelers was there as well. He's donated an autographed jersey. And then also the Quad City Storm was there as well. They're going to have a night coming up in November to celebrate the Student Hunger Drive at the Storm game. So it's great to see the community come out. We can get off this shot. It's just the three of us kind of smiling and looking goofy, but it was such a fun night out there. Thank you again to letting me be part of it. Always great to team up with Cuff once again and have some fun. So again, if you can support the Student Hunger Drive in any way possible, we'll probably have more of that coming up. I believe Friday we'll talk a little bit about it on the show as well. But if you can support it in any way, shape, or form, please do so. And thank you to the Riverbend Food Bank for letting me be part of a fun night. Figure through it because our first guest is a very familiar face. And it's weird because it's not Wednesday, but it is Jake Brend Day here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Moving up a day, we appreciate you doing that. There's a lot to talk about the Cyclones, but that microphone's kind of hiding it. But you're wearing the Cubby sweatshirt today for a reason, my friend, aren't you?
Big week.
Thoughts, 2:00 today, Wrigley Field. What are you thinking? How you feeling? Home field advantage with the Padres.
I mean, it's been so long since I felt this.
Yeah.
Like I know the team made it in 2020. That didn't count. Shortened regular season. So it's really the first time in 7 years. And I feel like I'd accepted for the last month or two that, oh yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. They're a lock. But I didn't allow myself to get excited until Monday when I saw Rizzo's hype video. I read PCA's article about what it means to be a Cub. I saw Matt Boyd crying about how his grandpa was such a big Cubs fan, and I'm ready to go.
Right?
if I could, I'd be in Wrigley tomorrow. I'd be in Wrigley Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but unfortunately, I don't think that's possible.
No, I know it. And the thing is, it's such a great time of year. I was telling my kids, it's like there's so many things going on. This weekend you had, Ryder Cup, football, all that kind of stuff. But like baseball, it's just different, Jake, isn't it? Postseason baseball in October, it's just a completely different experience, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm getting butterflies. Like you watch 162 games, and you can only imagine how much of a drag it is for players and the managers when it's a drag for the fans, because you wait all day on a Tuesday to watch the team go play a game in Pittsburgh, and then you turn the game on and they're down 6-0 in the first inning, and you're like, well, I'm not watching anymore. You do that, 70 times a year?
Yeah.
The team goes 92 and 70, and then it's all wiped clean once the playoffs hit, and it's game by game, pretty much day by day, survive in advance, and it's different. It's awesome.
We are going to talk Cyclones, I promise, but do we have a prediction? Like, what are we thinking? Are we feeling? Obviously, the injury bug gets again with pitching. The Cubs got to score some runs to win this week, don't they?
Yeah, I hope it's not fool's gold, but they showed me something offensively the last week against St. Louis, against Pittsburgh. So I think they're going to beat the Padres. I do. I think it's going to take 3 games, but I trust Tyone in a do-or-die Game 3. And then give me Milwaukee. Think I'm afraid of the Brewers?
No.
What have they done in the playoffs ever?
Right? I mean, and that's what we talked, I think, last time you're on. Everybody wants...
Yeah, there's not much you would change about that first half. The offense, it's weird. The stats weren't amazing. I don't think the stats reflected the performance at all, but Rocco Becht continues to prove to me that I probably put too low of a ceiling on him as a quarterback, and I think he just keeps blowing that ceiling off. I think he's the best quarterback in the Big 12, and I said Monday, I think he might be closer to the best quarterback in the country than he is the 10th with how he's playing right now. And that's not including what the defense did. I thought that was a really tough matchup. I thought Noah Fafita had the potential to evade and escape the pocket and just wait and make plays, and it didn't happen. Iowa State dominated an Arizona team that I don't think is great, but they're definitely better than last year, and I did not expect a 25-point win when I went out there on Saturday night.
The thing is, too, is you never know how a team's going to respond to a bye week, if there's going to be rust, how they used it. What was it? Was there any talk afterwards? What was it about that bye week? I think we both talked last week. They needed it just as a team with the travel and the big games. They looked refreshed, especially mentally and physically. So was... You know what I mean? It was uninspiring. So I think the bye week, it couldn't have come at a better time, could it?
No, they probably needed it earlier, just with the type of schedule they played. But you got to think these schedules are made so far in advance. They scheduled South Dakota to be played on August 30th a decade ago. They scheduled Arkansas State 12 years ago, and then you throw the Ireland game in there, literally last year. The schedule was probably not made the right way, but it's not anybody's fault. So they really, really, really needed that bye week. And the sense that I got from the team after the game, we talked to team captain Caleb Bacon, was just that they didn't feel like they were playing their best football, even though they were 4-0. And they came out, I'd have to do the research. I can't think of a time Iowa State's played better than that coming off of a bye. Usually, I found that Iowa State would struggle out of byes, especially early. That was not the case at all on Saturday night. They came out of the gate swinging. They were aggressive. They threw the first punch on offense, and they didn't really look back at all.
Jake, I expected Iowa State to score and to play well offensively. I would think I was more impressed, and I was in Iowa City with the Hawkeyes. I watched Illinois, kind of at Iowa before the game started. So I didn't watch Iowa State till Sunday morning. And I think the biggest thing that kind of stood out to me was the defense. I thought Arizona was going to score. I thought they'd put up some points. Talk about the defensive effort and what worked on Saturday night in Ames.
Yeah, this has been a trend all year, and I'm starting to pick up on it a little bit more. John Haycock, he typically approaches games like it's a boxing match, where he'll treat that first round, he'll treat that first drive as just kind of, you take your punches. Usually you'll see teams go down the field, drive, and score. Like it happens more often than not. And this year, that just hasn't been the case. Haycock has ratcheted up the pressure a little bit earlier this season. And Arizona, to their credit, they did drive down the field early, ended up missing a field goal, but that drive stalled because Haycock sent pressure. And I think Haycock's plan was brilliant to get to Noah Fafita. They didn't sack him, but they made him make throws early. And when you're making throws early against that Iowa State secondary, it's dangerous. And I think bigger picture-wise, it's one of the first times I think that I've realized it in the moment that what Iowa State is right now compared to Arizona is what 10 years ago Iowa State felt like going up against the TCUs and the Baylors and the Oklahoma States of the world. Iowa State was just better at every single position. And I think that goes to show the consistency, the program building from Matt Campbell in now year 9 in Ames.
Wow. And you look at it too, that secondary opportunistic as well. 2 takeaways. And anytime you're at night in Jack Trice Stadium, that crowd, the energy feeds off big plays like that. Kind of talk about that because the takeaways were important. Cashing in was important. The offense was playing well. You talk about complimentary football. We hear it so often in every type of football, but especially in college football. The complimentary football was there offensively, defensively. We're going to talk about special teams in a second because we had a local kid that put the ball through the upright, which is a beautiful thing to see. But the complimentary football started on defense, I felt, almost than it did on offense, and the offense did their job after that.
Yeah, it's been preached by Matt Campbell since he got here. And I think a lot of it is the coach, or it comes off as the coach speak. Like, oh, yeah, of course, complimentary football, blah, blah, blah. You got it. The offense has to help the defense has to help the offense. But we've really seen it this year pretty consistently. And I think we even saw it pretty much most of last year, even though there might have been some holes in that Iowa State defense. But you're completely right. What Iowa State's doing right now is they're not really going 3 and out almost ever. There very rarely are times where they're putting their defense right back out on the field. And that goes a long way over the course of the game. And I know you mentioned special teams. Iowa State's average starting field position in that game was their own 37-yard line. When your defense is causing stops and your special teams is having your own team start at the 37, it makes life a lot easier for the offense to only need to move the ball 63 yards to get in the end zone. And Rocco Becht has proven to be pretty elite this season at taking advantage of those opportunities.
Special teams, pretty special here in the Quad Cities because Kyle Cagnardi out for a while, for a little bit, we don't know how long, and true freshman Chase Smith steps in, and he didn't hit a game-winning field goal. He didn't hit a 55-yard field goal or anything like that, but he did the job for a young Quad Cityan, but a young person in general, to come in there and to see the ball go through the uprights. That's important, isn't it? And he did his job. And I think that at Iowa State right now, they preach do your job, and he did a good job on Saturday.
Absolutely, yeah. He handled kickoffs as well, didn't miss an extra point, was able to make a field goal in garbage time. And I'm not going to say that it helps, but it certainly doesn't hurt to go out there and see it go through the net. I would imagine this next week against a really, really good Cincinnati team, he's going to have a higher leverage spot, and you hope that he's ready. And I think he proved on Saturday that he can at least handle the layups. Like, he makes the extra point. He made, I believe it was a 36-yard field goal. So it's got to feel good for him to get out, be able to do it, not just in practice, be able to do it in a game in front of a sold-out crowd. That certainly has to help confidence going forward.
Absolutely. And it's not it wasn't any pressure or any like high situation, but you just mentioned it's night at Jack Trice Stadium. And yes, they're all rooting for you. I get that. But
ESPN's there. So like you're doing it in front of millions of people back home too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So hats off to him. Jake Brend from the Cyclone Fanatic joining me right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Jake, you look at, I want to talk about Cincinnati specifically in a second, but I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'm trying to think how young you are. You'll remember it, but you weren't. This team right now a little bit starts to remind me of the 2015 Iowa football team, where like now people are expecting them to lose at some point. When are they good? And I remember being in 2015, like, God, they haven't lost yet. But here comes this team, or there's a sneaky tough trip here, and everyone was expecting that other shoe to fall. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully at all. I think people think that Iowa State's a good football team, but they're kind of, I think, and it tells with the line in this week's game. They open up 2.5-point favorites. I think it's 1.5 that they're underdogs now. This team still has some doubters out there to prove wrong, do they not?
Oh, 100%. I think the biggest doubt heading into the year from the outside world was, well, they lost Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. They were a fun story last year. They won't be able to replicate it without those two. And, I mean, maybe for a couple games, those people look smart because, oh, who's stepping up on the outside? Brett Eskelson had been okay. Well, here comes Chase Sewell, who was brought in as the big-time transfer wide receiver, injured all of fall camp, breaks out for 150 yards. And that, if there's a way that Iowa State continues to win these games, as the defense gets more and more dinged up, maybe it's the offense that continues to ramp up. And if you look at the offense without Higgins and Knoll, how is it still working? How is it putting up 39 points against an Arizona team that was top 10 defensively in pretty much every category? It's Rocco Becht is better now than he was last year. And he might not have Higgins and Knoll, but he's better right now than he was with Higgins and Knoll. And I think that 2015 Iowa team is a pretty good comp. But in Iowa State's case, I didn't expect them to start 4-0. I thought they'd lose to K-State or Iowa. Flip a coin on which one it would have been. They win both of those. So now you're like, well, you're 5-0. Some people kind of had this Colorado and Cincy back-to-back as, oh, they'll split that. We'll see. It's going to be a pick'em and probably 8-9 point favorite over Colorado, and you just got to keep winning. That's the only way you can prove the doubters wrong, is go and win a game that people now expect you to lose. And I'll hint at it in a bit, but I'm probably going to pick them to win that game.
You look at this team too. They're going to Cincinnati. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know much about Cincinnati. I've seen them here and there. I think everybody watched them earlier in the season against Nebraska. At Arrowhead, in a game they should have won. I'm still trying to figure out how they didn't. It's a really good football team. It's a challenge. What do you see from Cincinnati? What threats do they pose to the Cyclones? And what's going to be a hostile environment in a road game in the Big 12?
Yeah, sold out at Nippert Stadium in downtown Cincinnati. I'm very excited to go. I've never been. I've heard it's a real cool stadium. They provide a lot of challenges. And this is not the Cincinnati team that I'm used to the last 2 years, one that was not really much of a threat at all on offense and was pretty stout defensively. They've kind of flipped. They lost every starter in the back end of their defense to either the portal or the NFL draft. So they replaced 5 starters, and their secondary has not been great this year. They do have one of the best defensive linemen in the entire country, Dante Corleone. They call him the Godfather. He did not play against KU. I bet he plays. But I think the opportunity for Iowa State to go put up 35, 40 points is there. However, their offense has completely turned a page. They are right now top 2 or 3 in every category of offense in the Big 12. Brendan Sorsby is a dynamic quarterback. He ran for over 100 yards against Iowa State last year. He just really struggled with his arm at points, but this year he's been incredible. He went out and flat out beat Kansas last week with his arm on the road as an underdog. They completely flipped the outside of their offense. Their wide receivers in the first 2 years of Cincy in the Big 12 were terrible. They probably had the worst receivers in the league. Now they went to the portal and they've completely rejuvenated that. Cincinnati is a massive test, I think, offensively for Iowa State, considering their defensive coordinator at Cincinnati was a part of Iowa State's staff who invented the defense that they run. So Tyson Veit, the DC at Cincinnati, is able to give some insight to their offensive staff on how to attack Iowa State's defense. I think the play should be the over on Saturday.
You mentioned, and this kind of goes to my next question. You mentioned, obviously, Rocco back to what he's doing at Ames, and then Cincinnati's quarterback's really good. Is it simple enough to say that, like, the quarterback that plays the best on Saturday, that team wins? Is it that simple, or is there more to the equation?
I think there's a shot. To me, that kind of depends on what does Iowa State's injury situation look like, because Dom Orange, Jontez Williams both got dinged up at the end of that Arizona game. If one or both of them don't go on Saturday, then this could be a game where it's like, well, Rocco, you kind of got to go play an A. You got to go put up 40 points to win this game. Do I know if that's the case? No. Sorsby, again, there was a stretch last year where I would have tabbed him as a top 5 quarterback in the Big 12, and then they lost the last 6 games of the year, and he was bad for most of that stretch. So can he build on what he's already accomplished this year and go out and do it against a really good pass defense like Iowa State? I think it is fair to say if Sorsby outplays Rocco, that Cincinnati will win this game.
You mentioned the change in the line. I think I mentioned it. It's going towards Cincinnati. Is there a reason for that? Did you expect it? Do you know why? And your thoughts on maybe people picking Cincinnati at home to maybe beat the Cyclones?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of injuries, like I already mentioned. I think it's probably a correction to what Cincinnati just did. They were not expected to go into Lawrence and win that game, and they did it by putting up 40 points. That has to play a part. There is probably a sense of, well, Iowa State's got to lose at some point, right? It's a tough spot. It's going to be a sellout crowd. I think all of that combines, and then it's just kind of where the money's going. If all the people are betting on Cincy, then the line is going to move towards Cincy. And it honestly opened kind of right around where I expected it to. I didn't think it would move this quickly, but I'm not going to say I'm shocked that Cincinnati's favored. But I'm kind of glad they are. I bet that's pretty good bulletin board material right now for Matt Campbell and his squad to say, look, we beat them last year in Ames. We crushed them at their place 2 years ago. They run our defense not as well as we do. Like they completely run the identical defense to us, and they're favored. I'm sure that's probably pretty good motivation this week at practice.
You're heading to Cincinnati this weekend. What do you see? What do you expect? Give me a prediction, and then kind of talk us through how this thing might look on Saturday.
I am a little worried about the matchup if you're just focused on the Cincinnati offense against the Iowa State defense. Iowa State notoriously struggles with running quarterbacks. That you can go back a long ways for that. And Sorsby is maybe the best runner that Iowa State plays on the schedule. And he's more Avery Johnson than he is Mark Gronowski, but he actually uses his legs, unlike Johnson. Like Sorsby's the type of guy that if he gets outside the pocket and has a hole, he can hit a 40, 45-yard run. He did that a couple times in Ames last year. And he's also going to be very tough to guard in the red zone. So I think Cincinnati's going to put up points, but I think Rocco Becht is also going to put up points. And I think the matchups that Iowa State will be heavily favored in is the wide receivers and the tight ends against that secondary and the linebackers for Cincinnati. So I'm going to pick Iowa State to win, and I think it's going to go well over the total. I think Iowa State wins this game. It's my first prediction, Dazzo.
Ooh,
so
I like it.
It shapes the rest of the week because I got to do this a couple more times. I'll go 37-33 Iowa State.
See, now the rest of the state of Iowa knows that the first Jake Brend prediction is on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. That's big time. That's like something I might be doing a promo on that just so people know what's going on. Does it, and I'm going to let you go, but does it, it feels like we've said this so much throughout the year. You've said this so much. If it's going to come down to the fourth quarter and it's a shootout like we kind of predict, aren't you just picking Rocco back? I mean, isn't it sounds like a dust statement, but we've seen it time and time again. I mean, if it comes down to crunch time, he figures out a way to get it done. As a Cyclone fans all around probably agree with, it's a pretty good guy to have on your side, isn't it?
Yeah, I think right now it's the best quarterback in the country in that moment. I don't know if he's the best quarterback in the country in general. I know there's a guy in Norman and Bloomington that definitely have a word at that. But when the game is on the line, like Iowa State's 9-1 in their last 10 one-score games. Eventually, that speaks for itself. And if you're tied with 2 minutes left, you need to go down the field. I'm gonna trust Rocco to be able to do that, because pretty much every single time he's been asked to do that since he got the starting job and since he kind of turned the corner in 2023, he's proven to do that. And honestly, 2023, this game against Cincinnati was maybe the one where I kind of turned on Rocco and thought, wow, he might be the quarterback of the future. It was right around this time of year. It was like mid-October. I think Iowa State was underdogs, and they went on the road and just kicked the crap out of Cincinnati. And Rocco looked really good that day, and that started his campaign as Big 12 Freshman of the Year. And now look how far he's come since that day.
What does it look like for Jake Brend when he goes to Cincinnati? Are there things you're looking to do? Have you been to Cincinnati? Is there food that you need to make a cinnamon roll?
I forgot that's not an Eastern Iowa thing.
Is that a Central Iowa thing?
Apparently, I grew up eating that in school. They'd give us chili.
What are you just like in geometry class? You got some chili
like the
in
cafeteria.
So
like the cafeteria,
I don't think I'm not playing dumb. I don't think I've ever heard of it in my life. So is it like chili and then they put the cinnamon roll in it? Do you put the cinnamon roll and then dump chili on top?
No, it's more so as a side. I think you can dip the cinnamon roll in the chili, but it's more of just a kind of a complement each other type meal. I know some people do dip it. I don't.
One's sweet, one's like spicy and savory. Is that what you're looking at?
Maybe, yeah. I've never really questioned it, but I know our good friend Chris Hassel had never heard of it. I think the first time this discourse came up was the game at Cincinnati 2 years ago. Okay. And that was the first time that I heard of Skyline chili. So I'll put an end to this debate once and for all.
Is that on the spaghetti? Is that the Skyline or?
Yeah, it's like the noodles.
Okay.
It's chili on noodles is what I've heard. I guess I'll see for myself.
I'm honestly like befuddled right now. Like I don't know. I think I like cinnamon rolls. I like chili. It can't be bad. Right?
Yeah, I've never dipped it. I know some people who do it, but I just, you eat chili, you eat cinnamon rolls. Like we'll have charity chili cook-offs in Central Iowa. I'm sure that happens all the time over there in the winter. And usually someone will bring a side and it's cinnamon rolls and you just eat them together. I don't know if there's an explanation beyond that though.
Jake, there's at some point in this world that we have to get together. I owe you more than a couple adult beverages for doing what you do for the show. We're going to do it with cinnamon rolls and chili somehow, some way. I don't know how it looks. I don't know when we do it, but it's got to be part of it because I'm more than intrigued. And we have a new listening audience in Central Iowa. So people in Central Iowa, hit me up, talk to me, like explain it to me, convince me of it. I got to find out. I don't think it's available around here. Did Hassel say you could get it on the eastern side of the state?
No, he'd never heard of it either. So I don't really know.
Where do you get it from?
Restaurants
is there a
that
place,
serve it here
or is it
either?
just home? Is it home?
It's more of a home cooked meal.
Looks like I'm going over the Brends.
Yeah, exactly.
Mama Brend,
now that I
I'm
think
coming.
about it, now that I think about it, I don't know if I've ever gotten it at a restaurant. Like it was just always a meal at school growing up.
It's gonna be awkward when Dazzo comes home for dinner. Like, why is he here? I don't know. He's here for the cinnamon roll and chili.
He's got to try the cinnamon rolls. Yeah.
All right, I like it. Well, Jake, enjoy the trip to Cincinnati. Tell people how they can continue to follow, not just in the eastern side of the state, but the entire state of Iowa when it comes to Iowa State. Cyclone Fanatic has everything you need.
Yep. Cyclone Fanatic will get you up to game day. Just hit up Cyclone Fanatic on YouTube. That is the best spot to follow what we do. We'll have every second of every interview with football players, basketball, women's basketball, wrestling, all that stuff. And then Saturday, I'll have highlights, a report from Cincinnati, all of the post-game interviews, all that good stuff. So Cyclone Fanatic on YouTube, cyclonefanatic.com will get you your Cyclone fix.
He's arguably the hardest worker in the state of Iowa. He's the reigning, defending, forever sportscaster of the year in the state of Iowa as well. Jake Brend, I appreciate you. Enjoy Skyline Chili. Let me know. Bring back a report next week, please.
Will do. Will do.
All right. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. All right. That is Jake Brend talking Cubs and then Cyclones and then Chili. I think we covered everything there. Make sure you check out all his stuff. He's on Twitter, obviously, but Cyclone Fanatic, especially on YouTube. If you're subscribed to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, if you're a Cyclone fan, or even if you're just a college football fan, make sure you subscribe to the Cyclone Fanatic as well. We got more to get to. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk a little Bears football. The bye week is here. We're going to talk more about the first 4 games and where they're going from there with a special guest. It's all straight ahead right after this on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday in the Quad Cities. It's big news when the Bears win a game. They win 2 in a row. It's a winning streak, and now they go on a bye. So after the first 4 games of the season, we can kind of look back and figure out what's going right, what's going wrong. Year 1 of Ben Johnson in Chicago. And everybody knows here in the Quad Cities, I'm a big Lions fan. One of my favorite podcasts is Locked on Lions with Matt Deary. And I always love the crossover because there's the Locked on Bears and their host, Lorin Cox. So I reached out to Lorin. He was nice enough to join us today here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo to talk some Bears football. Lorin, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Didn't know you, anything like that. And I appreciate you taking the time to join us here in the Quad Cities.
Hey, appreciate it. You know, it's only the 3rd winning streak in the last 4 years, so I understand it's a big occasion.
Is that right? That's
back to back,
amazing.
yeah, back to back wins of 2 or more, 3rd time in the last 4 years. So we'll hold on to it. Yeah.
Yes, it's and you know what? And I'm a Lions fan. I know what that's like. And so, bye weeks are okay when you're on winning streaks, right? Like, I mean, you don't have to worry about the winning streak going away for another 2 weeks minimum because you get a bye week. This team has been through a lot in 4 weeks, Lorin. The bye week, I hate them early. I know a lot of teams hate them early, but I don't know if it's the worst thing in the world right now with the injuries on defense and all that kind of stuff. Talk about a bye week right now here in week 5 of the NFL season.
Yeah, I think normally you might be worried about, losing some kind of momentum going in the bye week. But I think for the Bears, just barely squeaking out a win against the Raiders, you kind of feel like, oh, well, they have a lot to still work on despite the last couple of wins. So I think it's a really great spot to say, okay, you've tried some different things under Ben Johnson. Some of it has worked. Some of it maybe hasn't, or some things haven't been quite the way you want it to. So you get an early opportunity to hit pause and take some extra time to go back through the tape and say, okay, what do we need to do a little bit differently? What do we need to do more of? And maybe where do they need to make some potential lineup changes on the offensive line, or maybe even a couple spots on defense where they've had injuries and different backups rotating in. And it's an early breather that I think maybe a more veteran team would like a later bye week, but I think a team that's still learning a new system on both sides of the ball appreciates having it this early.
They are coming off the victory over the Raiders. I guess we should probably start there. A wild game, a crazy game. What are the headline? What headline do you take out of Vegas and a victory over the Raiders? And a win is a win. And I don't think that's a game they win last year, Lorin, and they won it this year. What's the headline maybe from Sunday's game?
Yeah, I think it's in there right there that this was a Bears team that, under the previous regime in Matt Eberflus, they found ways to lose games like this. When it's close in the end, somehow, some way, they'll pull out a loss. And under Ben Johnson now in this game, it felt like the first time they found a way to win. Because even in week 1 against the Vikings, they led in that game, then it was close towards the end in the fourth quarter, and they kind of found a way to lose. And you felt like, is this going to be more of the same? Like, it's going to take longer for Ben Johnson to kind of fumigate the stench around this Bears franchise. But this felt like a little bit of like not quite a monkey off the back, because you don't trust that the team is like cleared some hurdle and they're really good now, but just a feeling of like, they can finish on top, where offense made mistakes, defense made mistakes, special teams made mistakes. But at the very end, offense gets a game-winning touchdown drive, special teams gets the blocked field goal, and it feels like the 3 phases, well, imperfect, came together when they needed it the most, and that hasn't been something that we've seen in quite some time.
Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears joining me right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Lorin, you look at it and I get it. He's the number 1 overall pick. He's what everybody talks about, and I got into some small arguments with people about Caleb after that game because, and my point wasn't he was good, he was bad. I just looked at it that it was more about the other things than Caleb. He did lead the drive at the end, and that's outstanding, but he didn't win the game. He didn't lose the game, but it was other headlines. The defense taking the ball away 4 times. Once again, 8 takeaways, I think, in 2 weeks. The defense with the block. Your thoughts on where this game was won? Because I know it goes to Caleb. I get it, and that's just where people are going to go to. But I felt like, to me, he was like storyline 2 or 3 or 4, not number 1. Am I off, or is he always going to be storyline 1 because he's Caleb Williams?
No, I think you're 100% right there. That, usually he is storyline 1, and he definitely plays a factor in there. But it's almost more like, the fact that he didn't, turn the ball over or didn't blow it at the end, as opposed to the special game or whatever he had. Absolutely driving down in the fourth quarter and giving them a go-ahead touchdown is super important and critical, but I don't know that it is storyline number 1. I mean, it's hard to pin down a single reason, and I think that's kind of the broader story there, is that it's not just one thing. I mean, literally, it's the blocked field goal, quote unquote, wins them the game. But of course, when you isolate it to one play, of course, there's a bunch of things along the way that win them the game. Making 4 field goals is the difference in a 1-point victory. Getting 4 turnovers. I mean, any of those individual turnovers, if those plays are incomplete passes, the Raiders probably get points on that drive, and it changes the outcome. So there's a bunch of different focal points throughout this game where, in an alternate reality, it goes a totally different way, but it just all fell in the Bears' lap. And Caleb Williams individually did enough to keep them in that position and get them where they needed to go at the end, with also without not giving them any trouble along the way, and being able to overcome issues in the running game, issues with some drop passes and offensive line issues. It just kind of felt like he did his job, and that's all they needed from him.
No, absolutely. You look at it too. Lorin, it's one of those things where they're kind of learning how to win. We talked about it. They don't win this game last year. And I think people and some Bears fans want this switch to flip, where it's like, okay, we have Ben Johnson. He was the guru last year. Let's flip the switch. Let's win 10, 11, 12 games. It's a process. And I keep reminding people as a Lions fan, Dan Campbell came to Detroit and they were 3-13-1. And then the second year they were 1-6, and they wanted to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They were, and Martha Ford had to come up and say like, hey, like this is our Sheila. I'm sorry, not Martha. It was Sheila Ford Hamp that came up and said, no, this is our guy. This is who we're sticking with. I think patience has to be part of this, but you can start to see it. You see the trick plays, and they're not always going to work, but you see the fourth downs, and they're not always going to work, but you can start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a process. Kind of talk about that, because patience has to be part of this, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a slow process of like, first you have to learn how not to lose, and then you have to learn how to win. And I think that's been a big part of this, where I think in the past there's been this like, oh no, not again type of like avalanche where, late in the fourth quarter, you're trailing and it's like, oh, how are we going to blow it this time? And I think you can feel that sometimes from the players where like, they don't, they'll never say they gave up hope or whatever, but you just kind of get this feeling like guys aren't quite, especially on defense, don't quite have the same juice or energy, and they start to get gashed on the field. And there's this feeling of like, we're going through the same process over and over again. Oh, we're going to lose. How are we going to lose this time? And so like to be able to push through that hump now without dominating the game, but just saying like, okay, let's get over this hump and realize that, oh wait, we are capable of, making those clutch plays at the end, gives them such a hope and a buy-in to start to turn things around and say, okay, that's the first step towards, like handling and beating teams that you're really supposed to beat, as opposed to like hanging in there with a 1-win Raiders team that, it's beneath where I think Ben Johnson and the Bears want to be, but it's a more accurate, measuring stick of where they are right now, where it's like, yeah, we are still on this caliber of team because we're still getting there. Like you see the flashes of the offense working great, flashes of the defense working great, but they haven't been able to do it for like 4 consistent quarters. And I think that's sort of the learning and growing process they're on right now, where they can do it in stretches, but still need to really build that off of each other to get like a really solid start to finish football game.
Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears joining us right now on OTA. Lorin, 4 weeks in, let's start on offense. Give me the surprise, not the surprise, but the thing you like about offense, what's it working, and then maybe the concern that you have after 4 weeks on offense. We'll start with the positive, the thing that you really liked what you've seen after 4 weeks with Chicago.
Yeah, I think the most encouraging thing for me has been how quickly they've found this ideal balance that was supposed to be part of the Caleb Williams-Ben Johnson marriage from the get-go. That the whole idea was Ben Johnson comes in and brings a very structured offense. 3-step drop, hitch, throw. There's some plays, 5-step drop, hitch, throw, but like every step is timed to the route of a receiver, and that Caleb just needs to follow this set of 5 rules, and there's always going to be a receiver open at some point in that progression for him to operate the offense. And then sometimes the offensive line breaks down or something goes wrong, and then Caleb has to be the hero and break the rules and innovate for himself. And finding that mix of like when to break the rules and when to stay within the structure is something that I thought would take even a little bit longer than it has. And it's not perfect, but I think they've accelerated through that process a little bit quicker than I thought they might have. I thought there might be a little bit more clunkiness of like, well, Caleb keeps leaving the pocket too early because that was an issue his rookie season, and taking too many sacks and holding on to the ball too long. And like that sort of timing and pocket presence has gone faster than I would have anticipated, not without still mistakes. It's far from perfect, but I've been really encouraged by that group. And I think the big surprise negative is the lack of running game. Like I had my doubts about the offensive line changes really solving everything, because I think, the right guard has some question marks, and there's always question marks at the left tackle. And, whenever you come in with question marks, you can kind of know there's going to be some ups and downs there. But I thought Ben Johnson's whole thing in Detroit was how well he could scheme a running game, even before they got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Like they cycled between DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And it almost seemed like not no matter what running back they had back there, but that he could make it work with a variety of running backs. and scheme it up to even overcome wherever they might have deficiencies. And that just has not yet been the case, in part because of offensive line struggles, in part maybe partially a little underwhelming from DeAndre Swift, but there's just not a clear answer to the running game, and that was supposed to be sort of the bread and butter here. But maybe you can be encouraged by the fact that Ben Johnson normally relies on the running game so heavily, and they've been able to be successful despite not having the thing he'd like to rely on the most.
No, you're right, because as a Lions fan, I told everybody when they got Ben Johnson, yes, you expect points and fireworks and fun plays and trick plays, but his bread and butter is running the football. And that's what the Lions did and being up front and the strength up front. And I know they addressed it in the offseason, but it still hasn't clicked just yet. And I know that's people want to see the fun plays and the flea flickers and all that kind of stuff, but Ben's completely fine with playing smash mouth football as well. Lorin, look on the defensive side of things, because I don't think if I would have told you to start the season they lost as many players they've lost, especially in the secondary, and they're figuring out a way to win 2 games, and the fact that they're doing it by taking the ball away at the rate they're taking the ball away. I give Dennis Allen a lot of credit. Your thoughts on the defensive side of the football? And there's no way, if I would have told you they lost Jalen Johnson and everyone else, that you would think that they'd be 2-2 and playing decent on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the injuries have been a major factor here, and I give Dennis Allen a lot of credit for being able to overcome them. And it's a weird thing where knowing that you have the injuries, you sort of are willing to accept, okay, yeah, the backup's not going to be as good, and you can live with those being the flaws of the defense. And so I think it's been a little bit more head scratching when you see guys who are, regular trusted starters struggling a little bit more. Montez Sweat has not had the kind of production the Bears were hoping from him this season, despite being seemingly fully healthy. And linebacker Tremaine Edmonds had maybe his worst game of the season against the Raiders on Sunday, missed some tackles and was just out of place in the running game over and over again. And even in the secondary, like Kevin Byard struggled the first couple of games of the season before finally it really clicked against the Raiders. He had 2 huge interceptions. The Bears did some different things coverage-wise on the back end, a lot more single deep safety where Byard could be in the middle of the field reading the quarterback's eyes, as opposed to they went too deep a lot more against the Vikings, Lions, and Cowboys because they were afraid of Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams and CeeDee Lamb, so they kind of backed off deep. But against the Raiders, they said, let's get more aggressive, and that's where a lot of the turnovers started to really come in there. So I'm encouraged by the ability to turn things around for Kevin Byard, and they turned things around for Tyreek Stevenson, a young cornerback who was pretty infamous for the Hail Mary issue last season and some other spots, but the last 2 games it's really clicked for him. He's been aggressive and confident and making really good plays in coverage. So it gives you encouragement that, okay, they've been able to take established players that were struggling and turn them around. So maybe in theory that can then apply to other established players who are still struggling, but maybe it'll be their turn to turn things around after the bye week with some more time to reflect on their opening of the season.
Lorin, one of my favorite parts of early season NFL football is overreactions, and they happen all the time. Like and there's usually somewhere in between. And an example, maybe the Packers, they're the greatest team ever to be assembled week 1, and now everybody's wondering what's going on after week 4, and it's probably somewhere in the middle. What's the biggest overreaction that you've maybe heard or maybe had to deal with when it comes to the Bears in 4 weeks? One of mine is Colston Loveland. And I think he's a super talented dude. And that position is so hard to come in and make an impact. And yes, it doesn't help that Tyler Warren looks like an all-pro down in Indianapolis. I get that. But I think that's one of them because it's 4 games in at a hard position to play as a rookie, and he's dealt with injuries, and people are cranky about that. Some people are. Is there an overreaction that you've heard in 4 weeks that you're like, this one kind of annoys me, let me address it?
Yeah, I think the big one, after 2 games, the losses to the Vikings and the Lions, there were already people calling for Tyson Bagent to start at quarterback, right? Or that, if Caleb struggles again, they might have to consider a quarterback change. And
Ben Johnson really loves Bagent. It's like, pump the brakes. Go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Ben Johnson was hired here. he wanted this. Ben Johnson was picky about what job he would take.
Yeah.
And he took this job because he wanted to work with Caleb Williams. Like, as much as he probably loves Tyson Bagent, and he gets along with Bagent, and they're described as very similar personalities and approaches, like, it's nothing to detract from Tyson Bagent whatsoever. But we're talking about the number 1 overall pick at quarterback and an immense talent and someone who Ben Johnson has praised over and over again. And I think the quote from Ben Johnson was after the Cowboys game, where he said, like, Caleb Williams makes my job easier as a play caller because I don't have to be perfect all the time, because I know if I call a play that doesn't work in a situation, he's got the natural talent and ability to break those rules we talked about earlier and make a play on his own. And part of the problem in Caleb's rookie season was that he had to do that all the time, and that's not a consistent offensive strategy to just say, Caleb, hey, make it work. Like, Patrick Mahomes can do that every single week, but a rookie Caleb Williams can't necessarily do the same thing. So to be able to, like, have that be the defining factor of Ben Johnson's tenure is why that was always a ridiculous overreaction. But I agree with you that the Colston Loveland stuff is a close second there, because Luther Burden was mixing that too, where people said, oh, well, the Bears have all these draft picks and none of them are making an impact already, and it's been 2 weeks of the season, and they missed all of OTAs and minicamp with injury, and it's like all of a sudden these draft picks are busts after 2 games when you draft these guys for the next 5 and ideally 10 years of their career, not what they do in the first month of the season.
No, 100%. The Caleb Williams thing, and around here, I don't like the Bears, and I'm the first to say I don't like the Bears. I'm a Lions fan, but I try to stay unbiased, and I just don't know about Caleb Williams. I don't, and nobody does. And I think it's okay to say, like you just said, I think it's okay. And like the people that think after a couple games last year that he was amazing, like I think. And then the same thing, the people that like Tyler Bagent's the guy, it's like, and you look all around football, Lorin, and you know it well. You don't know yet. Look at Jaden Daniels last year, the greatest thing ever. This year, injuries, slow start. CJ Stroud was going to be an MVP, and now they can't score down in Houston. So it's young quarterbacks. They got to figure it out. And so I think people get mad at me, but it's like, I'm not bashing Caleb. I just don't know yet. And I got to wait to see. And I don't think a lot of people know until you see him with Ben for a while to see if it's going to work out or not work out. Lorin Cox joining me on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Let's go after the bye week real fast before I don't want to take all your time, but they get the bye week, and I think they get healthy. Can you talk to me about that? Like, are they expecting some defensive guys back? I know that Jalen Johnson's not going to come back anytime soon, but they'll be more healthy after the break, and I think that'll help the run defense, correct?
They'll definitely be more healthy. Whether it'll help the run defense is definitely at least wishful thinking from a Chicago Bears perspective. So like slot cornerback Kyler Gordon posted on Instagram this past week that he thought he would be ready to go against the Raiders, and sounded like game time decision and just not quite ready enough then. So you presume he's good to go after the bye week if he was close to this game. And then same thing with linebacker TJ Edwards, where he was pretty much injured from the start of the season, has missed all 4 games. And if this was a player they expected to miss more than 4 weeks, they would have put him on a short-term injured reserve knowing he'd come back after 4 weeks. So I think he's taken longer than they thought, but now that it'll be an extra week, it'll be week 6 will be the next game. You would presume that if he had some kind of setback or something, they would have already put him on IR so that they would think he'd be ready now for week 6. So you should have him back as well. And then like Darnell Wright at right tackle, he left the game against the Cowboys with an injury, came back and finished that game against the Cowboys with that injury. Did not look great in those injured snaps, but the fact that he was able to play a football game with the injury that then caused him to miss the Raiders game suggests that perhaps an extra week off should be enough. If he could play through it at one point poorly, 2 more weeks feels like enough time for that to be able to play through. And then Grady Jarrett is the defensive tackle, the other one that's a little bit more up in the air there. I don't have a good sense of how severe that injury might be, but it wouldn't stun me if he still takes a little bit of time back. But getting Edwards, Gordon, Wright, Colston Loveland missed this last game. He was questionable with a hip injury. Like getting legitimately 4 or 5 starters back is going to make a big difference for any team. And I do think it's one of the underrated takeaways from the first 4 games is that they were dealing with these injuries, but didn't really add any other major injuries. So there's a real feeling like most of these guys should come back healthy after the bye and be a big boost. And you're not really missing much more than you were already missing when you had the first game of the season when Jalen Johnson was out anyway.
So you come off the bye week and it's the return to the scene of the crime. And I know that's what everybody's going to be talking about. I'm probably going to start this week. Definitely next week. It's just going to be nonstop. And then you go Saints at home. And I look at this stretch, and I just said I don't like the Bears, and it's an opportunity to steal one in Washington. They haven't blown me away, and you got to think. I know Ben wasn't there last year, but you got to think those guys that were there last year cannot wait to go back there and play. So obviously an interesting game there, and then the Saints aren't very good, and you get them at home. Start with Washington, and maybe focus on Washington. Everyone's going to talk about last year. What does this year look like if the Bears are going to go on the road and get another victory?
Yeah, it's weird because back-to-back years where they're playing Commanders off of a bye week. And generally under Matt Eberflus, they were usually pretty good coming out of the bye week. And I guess, to be fair, like they were pretty good against the Commanders last year. They played them all the way down to the last play of the fourth quarter. It just, found a way to lose to bring it back full circle to what we talked about at the beginning. And I think that's all the main thing Bears fans are going to be looking for from this game. Like, sure, of course, you're going to want to see the Bears beat the Commanders, but I think there's an understanding that like this was a team that made a deep playoff run last season, and as much as they haven't looked as good this season, Washington will likely be favored and I think should be expected to win the game given how much the Bears still have to prove. And I think from Chicago's perspective, if you can just put up a good fight and not embarrass yourself horrifically on a national stage on Monday Night Football once again, I think last year it was Thursday Night Football, but it was still a national broadcast game either way. Like I think the expectations are still pretty low, and it's just a matter of like, I know you want to like get back at them, but I think just playing them tough is real progress for this team. But I think it also depends on whether Jaden Daniels plays or whether it's still Marcus Mariota, because I think it means a little less if you beat Marcus Mariota, it's their backup quarterback. No, everyone will say, well, okay, that wasn't a full-strength Commanders team, so you don't get as much credit for beating them then as you do if it's Jaden Daniels, and now Caleb Williams has surpassed him again as the better of the young quarterbacks. It'll be plenty of overreaction either way.
Yeah, it's funny when they beat the Raiders, and I said to somebody, like, the Raiders aren't very good, and I didn't mean that, and Bears fans will get cranky. You don't have to defend anything. A win in this league is hard. You just mentioned it's your third winning streak in 4 years, fourth winning streak in 3 years, whatever it is. Winning is hard. You don't have to apologize for winning in the NFL. You just take it and run and go do the next one. Before I let you go, now that we're 4 weeks in, I'm trying to think back to the Locked On NFC North preview show where you had the Bears at. Where did you have? And if I remember that, God bless me, because I did listen, but I can't remember my own kids' names half the time, more or less. But where did you have the Bears at the start of the season? Has anything changed with you prediction wise to where they may end up?
Yeah. So I started the season with this team, right around, I had them at 9 wins, 9 and 8, but like short of the playoffs there. Like maybe it comes down to a tiebreaker where, they're probably the 8th or 9th seed in the NFC because it's a good conference and it's hard to make the playoffs there. But like they get just above 500 and you feel like they're on the precipice of something. And then 2026 is like the year where they really hit it hard. I have been underwhelmed by the defense more than I expected. The offensive slow starts have kind of been a little bit more where I thought, but I thought the defense in Dennis Allen would be able to generate a little bit more of a pass rush and maybe not, I'm willing to excuse myself a little bit for the injuries that we weren't expecting. Jalen Johnson, TJ Edwards, Kyler Gordon to be out, and maybe they'll look better as those guys get healthier. I find myself coming down, a win or so that, 8 wins feels like a really good goal. And I don't think 7 would be the end of the world, but anything less than 7 feels like a real major disappointment. And 7 you can talk yourself into if, injuries continue to be a problem and then the defense doesn't quite figure things out and the offense still can't run the ball, that they're probably going to lose to teams like the Ravens and the Eagles and the Packers on the schedule, but they should beat teams, like the Saints, like the Giants, and certainly like the Cowboys and Raiders that they had so far. So I think they'll win the games they're supposed to win, and they'll lose a couple of those toss-up games that they're just not quite consistent enough yet to get over the top, but they'll leave the team encouraged about like, hey, they built up a lot this season. And if you can just tweak a couple of weakness spots here and there in the offseason, you feel like you're one more big move away from really trying to contend in 2026.
I lied. I have one more. I want to talk about the division real fast because I think going into the season, you thought, man, like this is a really good division. I'm not saying it's still not, but you see flaws. And I think like with the Vikings, man, like the quarterback's important. I know that coach is really good with developing quarterbacks, but at some point it's hard to develop if they're not there to develop and all those kind of things. The Packers have shown flaws lately. The Lions looked really bad in week 1. They've looked really good since then. Your thoughts on the division as a whole after 4 weeks? Has anything changed with you on who you think is where things maybe, give me a pecking order at the end of this thing, maybe where people lie?
Yeah, I think you're spot on where I still don't feel like I fully know this division. You kind of felt like after a couple weeks, you had a good sense that like Packers were really good. Vikings were inconsistent. Lions were probably going to figure some things out. And then, the Vikings were going to be riding down. And the Bears were probably going to be a bad team. And it looked like, okay, things were kind of slotting in. But in the last week or so, it's been a little bit more up in the air, with Green Bay looking really shaky and Detroit looking really good and Minnesota being a massive question mark and the Bears starting to play better. So I don't have a good set. Like, I still need to see a little bit more of probably all 4 of these teams, but I still feel like the Lions, it's weird to say, the Lions have earned a benefit of the doubt that week 1 is always a weird thing where we see good teams lose and bad teams win in week 1. So the Lions week 1 loss to me doesn't stick as much. And the fact that as well as they've played in the game since, I have a lot more faith in that being a little bit more like the quote unquote real Lions. And similarly to with the Minnesota Vikings, where it's like, I don't think they've looked particularly sharp except for, beating up on the Bengals when Joe Burrow goes out and that's a bad Bengals defense. Like, I don't think they've been that sharp. So I'm not super scared of the Vikings, but if I have to get my pecking order, it's Lions 1, Packers 2. I've said all along, I think Vikings and Bears are going to finish similarly.
Do it.
I think Kevin O'Connell is more proven as a quarterback guru that whether it's McCarthy or Carson Wentz right now, I think he can have them as the 3rd team and the Bears might still be 4th, but that might be Bears at 8 wins, Vikings at 9 wins, Packers at 10 and Lions at 11. And it's all sort of one game apart.
Yeah, no, I thought about it today and I'm like, and there's a lot it's such a fickle league, and I get all that, but it's not. I don't think the gap between the Vikings and Bears are as big as anybody thinks. I really don't. And it comes down to if one quarter. It goes back to JJ versus Caleb, and as critical as I can be about Caleb, JJ's had one good quarter, and now he's hurt again. That was it. He had one really good quarter against the Bears. Other than that, the other 7 have been less than desirable. So it'll be fascinating. Tell people about the Locked On Bears. How can they listen? All that kind of stuff before I let you go.
Yeah, of course. Really appreciate you having me on. The Locked On Bears podcast comes out 5 days a week on all the podcast platforms and YouTube. And you can follow me on Twitter at Cox Sports 1. It's like Fox Sports 1, but with a C.
It's awesome. Lorin, I appreciate you doing this. I love listening to you when you come over to the Cross Locked On show. And I even check out the Bears one every once in a while, and more than every once in a while. So I appreciate you doing this. I would encourage everybody that's listening to check on Locked On Bears. And Lorin will probably bug you again in the future. I appreciate you.
Of course, happy to do it anytime.
Awesome. That is Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears. A great time to talk about it because we are 4 games into the season. I know that math isn't correct, but it's a fourth of the way through the season. I think somebody said the other day we're 23.5% the way through the season. So it used to be the quarter point. So some good things for the Bears and some things to worry about and to figure out before they continue through the season as well. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo right here on a Tuesday in the Quad Cities. We'll be right back.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need mobile party experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile party experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your mobile party experience today. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday in the Quad Cities. We are already to week 6 of the high school football season, and several teams around the area, a lot of teams playing well on both sides of the river, and that includes over in Eldridge, where the North Scott Lancers have won 2 straight games and get ready for another big test again this week, joined now by their head coach, Tony Stewart. Coach, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. The season's going too fast, isn't it? Or maybe not fast enough. I don't know. It seems like it flies by.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You just from the beginning of August until now, it feels like you put your head down and wake up, and it's like, where'd the time go? Because you're just I know in your business you're the same way. It's just a constant go, go, go. You don't really have much time to sit down and think and rest. So, but yeah, it's gone real quick. So.
Absolutely. 3-2 on the season and well tested, I think, when you look at North Scott. Before we talk about this week and Western Dubuque and a really good football team, you guys have piled together some really good games, 2 straight victories, a close loss in the middle of all that. What's it been like with you first year, kind of seeing this team grow and get better against some really good competition?
Yeah, it's been good, not just the kids, but the staff as well, just kind of growing and, figuring out what works for us and trying to help put the kids in the best position to have success. And I think we've gotten to a point with our staff where we're a little bit better at that as well. But yeah, the kids, I said at CCA game, that was the game we easily could have gone the other way, but our kids never quit. They just kept fighting, kept battling. Never lost faith in each other, and that was probably the best thing to see. Is they were going to win that game. It came down to players making plays, but they never doubted. So that was a fun one to get to. So.
Obviously, your first season as the head coach, and you've already played number 1. You've already played number 2. You played CCA as well. Who made the schedule? Did Kevin do that to you on the way out the door? That's rough. But as we mentioned before we started, it's what you guys kind of want to prepare for the entire stretch. Kind of talk about that, because win-losses are one thing, but you guys are getting tested and I think getting better week in and week out.
Yeah, I think it's really important to play quality opponents, just to find out where you're at. It's good to win games by a lot, but it's also a lot more fun to win close games and to play games you have to work for. Anything in life. Right. It's more satisfying when you have to put time and effort and it's a struggle and you come out on top. Sometimes you don't, but it's still a lot more satisfying just because you put in the time and effort. And it's really important to play good opponents. So you're prepared to play good opponents when it really, really matters. So.
Coach, you look at a game like Pello, which was so close in a 1-score game, to see your guys battle, last couple of weeks, especially against CCA, and to get the results. How important is that? Because we talk about being battle tested, but bottom line is you got to see the results at the end of the day. How important is it to see it go your way, just to show these guys, hey, trust the process? You guys know what you're talking about, I think, when it comes to the coaching staff and all that.
Yeah. No, that's really important. That CCA game, I knew we needed to win that one, and I'm not, I'm not preaching to anybody, but, I pretty strong in my faith. And I just remember praying that game. Was like, man, we need to get this one just because I need the kids to be on board with what we're trying to do. And I felt like every turn had my back, even though I know that that's not the case as far as like wins and losses, but I felt like I was supported and I felt like I was able to have some calm and peace. Just because I was praying about it and just like, hey, let's get our kids in position, and their kids made plays. So it's been fun to see, and just you're right, you have to have some of the results to go along with it, or else you can lose the kids. But right now, I think our kids are on board, and it's been fun to see them grow.
North Scott head coach Tony Stewart joining us right now and off there with Matt Randazzo. You look at it, coach, and last week in an impressive victory over Davenport West. We're now through half the season. What do you like about this team? What have you seen when it comes to growth? And they do seem like they're playing really good football and it's kind of coming around at the right time of year. What do you like about this team right now?
I like their physicality. We talked about our own D lines. We've had some guys step up in places that we weren't 100% sure on. Our kids have been playing physical. That's been a big part of what we do. But then I've actually been impressed and I would say surprised, but pleasantly surprised with some of our skill players. Like we talked earlier in the year, we just weren't sure what we were going to have yet. Some of our guys have stepped up and made plays that I just wasn't sure were going to happen, and they have. And that's the fun part of high school football. See what happens. And so I've been really pleased with their growth, and confidence has come with that. So
you guys start district plays, did it last week, and I know it's important to every game's important, but district games have that different. It's just like conference games in Illinois have that different feel to them. Is there a noticeable change when it comes to that kind of stuff? I know you want to prepare the same every game as well, but districts is what's so important to get in the postseason, all that. These games coming up in district play are super important, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I can't say the preparation has changed, but we understand the different meaning of it. You could lose all 4 non-district games and still go win your district. When you get into the district play, well, each game matters a little bit differently. But our preparation has been good, and that's one thing we emphasized last week when we played West and we talked about this a lot, but we want a nameless, faceless opponent because if you do that, then you're focusing on what we're doing and how we should prepare. Not thinking, oh, this team's really good and we're going to struggle, or this team's not very good and we should win. No, we're going to keep an even keel and we're going to prepare nameless and faceless opponent.
Speaking of opponents, I know it's nameless and faceless, but I'm going to completely contradict what you just said because it's Western Dubuque. And it's funny because you look at rivalries around our area and you think Bettendorf PV, Rock Island, Moline, there's so many great rivalries. This is one. And it's not like next door neighbors, but 2 programs that have played in a lot of big games and their district opponents and all those kind of things. Can you talk before the game itself about, I don't want to say the rivalry, but the growing rivalry between 2 really good programs when it comes to Western Dubuque and North Scott over the years?
Yeah, I remember the first year we played them, I was our head sophomore coach, and we came out and kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit because our kids didn't know who they were, didn't know. Again, they went into it not a ton of respect, and then we found out who they were, right? And then we ended up coming back and winning that game, but as a sophomore team, but. It was an eye opener for us because we had just moved from 4A to 3A, and it's grown over the years. I think we've played, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years. We played at least 13 times. This will be 14, I believe. It seems like we almost get them twice a year. This is our first time in district play though, but it's always been non-district or playoffs. But yeah, it's become a rivalry. I get along with their head coach. I've got to know him over the years, and one of their other assistant coaches used to coach at Dubuque Senior, and he was a track coach. And every time I see him, we always, so they're good people too. But it's become a bit of a rivalry. It's one we all want to get. So,
obviously a good team. What do you see on paper from them? What do you see on film from them? Paper, you don't see anything. What do you see on film? And what do you expect from a really good football team?
They do defensively. They're very multiple. They do a lot of different things to try to confuse you. So if you think you see something on film and then your next play, like I'm going to run this, well, they're going to change up what they do. So we got to be aware of that and just train our quarterbacks to see what the defense is giving us. And then they're like us. They pride themselves on being physical. They're a big physical team. They're the running back's physical. He likes to run downhill. That's kind of always been their MO. They got a running back that's going to try to run over you just as much as he would run around you. So yeah, they're a solid team. We're up for the challenge, but it's going to be a challenge, but we know it every year we play them. And those are the games you want to play. We're excited for it.
No, absolutely. Tony Stewart, North Scott head coach, joining me right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. A few more for you, Coach. We talked before the season and twice probably when you got the job and then before the season to kind of preview what was going on. And I asked you, what's different, what's new? And, you gave me answers, but you really didn't know because you're still the first-year head coach. Now 5 weeks in, what's been different? Is it noticeably different from last year when it comes to what you do day in and day out as the head coach at at North Scott?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I spend a lot less time with our O-line, but I'm thankful for the guy we got on board coaching our line. So I kind of bounce around. I'm able to see a little bit more of the position groups, prep work. As far as that, there's not many nights I get to bed before midnight, and I'm up at 5 to get in the weight room. So it's been a busy fall, but it's been fun. You get to work through and figure out what works for me and what works for our staff. So the preparation has definitely been different. But going through the year, I go back to our very first summer practice. It was like, I don't know, your mom and dad's gone and you're trying to run the household without them, if that makes sense, like as a kid. Yeah. And it's like, well, I'm in charge now. But like it was just a different feel that first day or two. But it's grown to where, I had to, we have responsibility at school. I had some meetings once in a while. So I missed like the first 30 minutes of practice, which is warm up and a couple drills. And when I got to practice, everybody's like, wow, where were you? What's going on? And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like when I was not the head coach, there's a little bit less of that, but we have a staff that could handle it. It was just funny from the kids' standpoint. And it's gotten to the point where it is what it is now. It's kind of business as usual. So.
We had Kevin Tippett on when he retired, and I asked him what his fall was going to be like, and then I asked you, I think, the same question. What do you expect from Coach Tippett? I'll ask you now. How active has he been? How annoying has he been? Has he been anything at all? What's that kind of been like after 18 years doing it, and obviously somebody and respect and learned a ton from?
Yeah, so he always told me, he's like, just anything you need, just let me know. Anything you need, I'll help you out. But then from my standpoint too, I didn't want to make sure I was overstepping. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of funny because I ran into his wife one day after practice and early in the year, and we kind of had that little conversation. And essentially she was saying, I think she didn't say it this way, but she goes, he'd be okay if you ask more questions, because I was like, I don't want to bother him. And she's like, he kind of misses it, and which of course he's going to. But I'll show you this. So one thing we did ask him to do is, if he had time during the week, is to just pre-scout some of our opponents, because he still has his huddle account. So these are his notes on Western Dubuque for the week.
Look at that! Right? Look at that!
So, just things like that have been great. He just sends it to me, and a lot of it I was on the same page. Some of the other things I was like, oh yeah, I got to make sure I see that or look for that, and to me, that's a perfect role. It gets him to stay involved, and then it allows me to speed up my prep a little bit, if that makes sense.
No, he's a great use of knowledge and all those kind of things. Tony Stewart joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Before I let you go, I thought it was really cool. I'm an Iowa fan, and I do the pregame show, so I get the Iowa side of things. But anytime a local kid's doing something great, I think it's awesome. And last week, because of injury, Chase Smith is the kicker for Iowa State, 4 for 4 on extra points, made a field goal. What's it like in the North Scott community, kind of watching him and so quickly doing what he's doing in Ames, Iowa?
It's been fun to watch, because Chase put a lot of time and effort into his skill. Everybody kind of saw the quarterback part of it, but he did a lot from the kicking and punting standpoint too, just to try to get better at it. And, he put himself in the position to be a preferred walk-on at Iowa State. And then I was texting him before last week about it, and he goes, I didn't have this on my bingo card this year. Right. And I'm like, and it was just, but he just took a good approach, and he's like, I'm prepared, I had a good fall. And, it's just, I'll go out and kick. And he had a great game, and he's made all his PATs all year. He's had some opportunities, and it's fun to see him, all the time and all the work he put into it, get an opportunity at that level. So it's been fun to watch.
Is that one of the beauty parts of coaching, but then also high school football? And we've had so many of them from our area, just guys that are willing to work and get better at any craft. Is that kind of cool with Chase, to see somebody? We watched him do so many different things, but he's just going to work hard in whatever you give him, whatever task you give him. And now he's kicking in front of 70,000 people at night on ESPN. I mean, it's crazy how quickly that goes.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to see just anybody. Athletics obviously but man, we see so many kids that just go and have success and open businesses and be good human beings in the community. And, and then you get to have continued relationships. We have Thursday nights prior to our games, we have meals, and parents provide them. And sometimes we'll have, programs or things we do with the kids. And, this Thursday we got a former, I'm not going to say his name yet. We got a former player that has graduated for 5 years and doesn't live here anymore. And he's starting his own life, but he's coming back to talk to our kids because of the things he learned throughout the program. And it's just fun. Those things are great. It's a community program. It's not just us. It's for everybody. It's for the community. And it's good to see people have success and then come and get back. So.
I love it. I love to see it. I always enjoy our conversations. Coach, appreciate you. Stay healthy, all that kind of stuff. Get a victory this week. And I'm hoping and I'm thinking we'll probably bug you again here in the fall.
Anytime.
So best of luck and always appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, that is Tony Stewart, the head coach over at North Scott High School. The Lancers, 3-2 in the season, 2-game winning streak. Big district battle with Western Dubuque, those two schools. As he mentioned, Western Dubuque is always identifying themselves as physical, tough, and that's North Scott. So it should be a great game coming up on Friday. We wish the Lancers the best of luck. We're not done on the high school level yet. Coming up, we're going to hop the river to Illinois. Annawan-Wethersfield is 5-0 in the season, playing really good football. Their head coach, Tony Gripp, will join us right after this. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday, September 30th, last day of September, of course, October. Beginning tomorrow. It's a great time of year when it comes to sports in general. Postseason baseball starting today. So many great things going on. High school football hitting that fun stretch. Not that the whole season's not fun, but when you hit week 6, 7, 8, 9, the games get bigger and bigger. And there's some great stories in the area, some great games every Friday night. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the View from the West podcast, the Instant Reacts podcast that I've been helping out with on Friday nights. It's been a ton of fun. And one of the teams we've talked a lot about is Annawan-Wethersfield. They're now 5-0 on the season, and their head coach, Tony Gripp, joins us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coach, first and foremost, congratulations with the great start. It's always good to see a 0 in the second column when it comes to sports, no matter what it is. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, 5-0, you can't get any better than that right now, but we got a long ways to go still.
Absolutely. I want to talk about that start because I know expectations were high at Annawan-Wethersfield, and you want to continue the excellence that is there. To see your guys kind of rise to the challenge in the first 5 weeks and play the way they have, I don't want to say it was unexpected because I know you had high expectations, but you love to see young people, take expectations and embrace them, and it seems like that's what you guys have done so far this season.
Yeah, I think, a lot of kids were looking forward to proving themselves. I mean, we lost 4 offensive linemen last year. Obviously lost Zeb and Brody. So I think everybody was kind of like, what's life going to be like for the Titans, after those guys are gone. And we had some guys in our back pocket that just kept their nose to the grindstone and kept working, and they developed under all those guys and stepped into those roles really, really well. And now that it's their time to shine, they're taking advantage of it.
You look at the early start to the season, every game's important. I think people kind of targeted that week 5 game with Rushville Industry as like a measuring stick, a litmus test on how good this Annawan-Wethersfield team is. Kind of talk about that win last week. To do so with flying colors, 35-14, I think the final was. You got to be proud of your guys, and that seemed like a big one for yourself, you guys in that program.
Yeah, I think I don't really think anybody was giving us the time of day. After they beat Princeville at Princeville in overtime or double overtime, whatever it was, and we just told our kids the most physical team is going to win. It's tough to play 4 quarters against that type of offense. But our kids, we came out really hot. We got up 14-0. And then at the same time, that offense is tough to come back when you're down, a couple scores. So, we played really, really well. Our kids played like their hair was on fire defensively. And it was a testament to, the coaches getting them prepared all week. They really took to the game plan and they understood their assignments. And like I said, that offense is tough to defend when you get a bone team and hold them to less than 200 yards of total offense or rushing yards at least. So, I think they had 44 carries for 185 yards or 186 yards. That just means our defensive guys really stuck to doing their job every single play and played disciplined football.
I was going to ask you about the offense because they're scoring 43 points a game, but I want to stick with defense for a second because you mentioned a couple words, physicality and the way they played defensively against Rushville Industry. Can you talk to that as just to set the tone defensively? And those guys might not get all the highlights and love and all those kind of things that come with high school sports and all that kind of stuff, but the physicality of your team seems like it's something you're loving right now, and defensively it's almost overshadowed how good you're playing, especially against Rushville Industry.
Yeah. I think that's kind of always the knock when, we play a bone team or a run heavy team. We've typically always, been able to move the ball, maybe score some points, but could never find a way to get a stop when we needed it the most. And, we kind of moved some things around the last couple of years on how we defend bone teams and stuff like that. And we really just try to personnel it the best we can with who we have, and just make sure our kids know, and simplify it as much as possible, right? It's tough. It's a tough offense to defend, no matter how simple it may look. But, we just try to simplify it as much as possible for our guys to really give them one job and, one key on each play and have them understand like their part and then the whole picture for our defense as well. Like sometimes you may be asked to take on a block a certain way, knowing that you're not going to make the tackle. But if you do that, that frees up, another inside backer to make the play. And, like I said, our guys really, they accepted their roles that we gave them throughout the week and they did it to almost perfection.
Offensively, 44, 49, 48, 42, 35, 43 points a game on offense. And that's nothing new at Annawan-Wethersfield. What is it about this offense that's clicking? You mentioned those guys up front too, because we talked to preview the season and that was the unknown, if you will, is replacing some guys up front. Kind of talk about that offense, what's working and what have you liked so far?
Yeah, well, we had a 4th and 2 at like the 15 and we had a bad snap. So we couldn't convert on 4th down. So I'd really like to have 42 there instead of 35. But our guys up front have been excellent. And like you said, we weren't sure, how that was going to go. That was kind of well, we could be really, really good if these guys are really, really good. And they learned really quickly, and they're fantastic. Honestly, it's a pleasant surprise up front with how we've developed, and we're still getting better every single week. And it's kind of scary the potential that group has. And then, our receivers don't get a whole lot of credit because we haven't thrown the ball a whole lot, simply because we didn't need to. I think our final stat line, we're a spread team, but our final stat line on Friday was 0 for 1 passing. So we only threw one pass. I think we threw 2, but there was a penalty on the other one. So, the guys on the edge also don't get a lot of credit because, they don't get the ball, but they block their tails off just as much as the offensive linemen. And, I hope when it comes, all conference time, that people realize, they might not have the gaudy stats, but that's because we're going to have 3 guys that might have 1,000 yards rushing, and they weren't asked to do what normal wide receivers are asked to do. So, obviously we can talk about Devin Horry and Nick Thurston and Maddox Heitzler and how they run the football, but, truly the unsung heroes are our offensive line and the guys on the edge blocking for them.
Absolutely. Tony Gripp from Annawan-Wethersfield joining me right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. 5-0 in the season, setting up a marquee matchup in Week 6. And us media folk, if you get undefeated teams going head-to-head and rivals going head-to-head, we're going to talk a lot about it. Stark County, and maybe a team that had question marks coming into the season, 5-0 as well. What have you seen from them? What do you expect from them coming up this Friday night?
Yeah, I think they're getting better every single week, and they have a lot of team speed. They got kind of a 1-2 punch at running back with a little bit thicker kid and then a speedy kid, and their quarterback does a good job of just managing their offense and taking a shot when he can. And he's pretty accurate with his deep ball as well.
You look at this season, and obviously 5-0, people are excited, community excited, school is excited. What do you tell your kids? Obviously, their head coach is going on the super popular daily show Off the Air and all the buzz that comes with it. But how do you make sure they realize 5-0 wasn't what we talked about to start the season? It's probably playoff victories and all those kind of things that are still out ahead and have to be worked on.
Well, like you said, I just tell them that, hey, I was on Matt Randazzo's show at the beginning of the year, so this is kind of where we expected to be.
Yep.
He gets all the credit.
Thank you. Finally. Like, I want my wife to say that one time. It's nice to hear somebody tell me I get some credit, but it's coming from the wrong person. But no, I had nothing to do with, obviously. There's huge goals ahead, Coach.
Yeah. I think the message stays the same, and it was the same, before the game Friday night. We really haven't proven anything yet. We got one big win against a pretty good team, but 5 wins is 5 wins. By no means are we clinched a playoff spot yet. We still need win number 6, and we still got a big one after Stark County. Not that we're looking ahead at all, but we still haven't won a conference championship. We still haven't clinched a playoff berth. So all of our goals are still ahead of us.
Absolutely. Coach, I appreciate your time. Always fun catching up with you. 5-0 in the season, Stark County 5-0. Great matchup on Friday. And stay healthy, all that kind of stuff. And if you need me to keep the mojo going, you can call me too. It doesn't have to be a one-way street. If you need me for anything, I know I'm an important part of the Wethersfield football program. So I appreciate your time and keep winning games.
You bet. Thanks for the coverage. I'm going to hold you to that, though.
Anytime. All right. That is Tony Gripp, the head coach at Annawan-Wethersfield. And I mentioned the View from the West Instant Reacts show. It's been a bunch of fun. 10:15 every single Friday night. Greg, Mitch, and the guys from View from the West, and so many coaches pop on throughout. In fact, I'm going to make Tony, if they can win on Friday, do the same and maybe hop on as well, because it's a lot of fun. If you're subscribed to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo and you haven't subscribed yet to View from the West on their YouTube page, do that as soon as possible. 10:15 every Friday night. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Tuesday right here in the Quad Cities.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Tuesday, September 30th, the last day of September, October already here tomorrow. It's been a fun show. I want to thank Jake Brend for coming on a day early. Usually our Wednesdays have Jake Brend on it. Talking Cyclones, we moved him up a day. Talking about the Cubs, the Cyclones, their game with Cincinnati. A lot to get to with Jake Brend, so go check that out. Also talked with Lorin Cox. First time I had Lorin on the show. He's with Locked On Bears. Kind of talked about the first quarter of the season. I've already gotten several text messages from friends and people saying, I can't believe you're talking Bears and have a Bears guy on. Well, there's several things in sports I don't like. It doesn't mean I can't talk about them, and usually I talk correctly about them. But it was fun to have Lorin on the show. We'll have him on again. Check out Locked On Bears. It's a really good podcast as well. So thank you to Lorin, and we had some Bears talk. North Scott head coach Tony Stewart, they go to Western Dubuque on Friday. Big game in that district as well. And then Tony Gripp, head coach at Annawan-Wethersfield. They're 5-0. They take on 5-0 Stark County on Friday. Great to catch up with Coach Gripp as well. Don't forget, we're taking OTA on the road. On Friday, we'll head to Moline High School in Browning Field. It should be a bunch of fun. Tomorrow, our Ness guest segment will be on. We have a winner for this week. I'll tell you how Ness, I think, expanded his lead a little bit, all that kind of stuff. So check that out as well. Also working on Tim DeWhite tomorrow. So hopefully we'll have Tim DeWhite on the show. Josh Sash from the Iowa basketball team later on this week as well. So many things to get to this week when it comes to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Also, 2+ hours away from Chicago Cubs postseason baseball. So hopefully the Cubs can do well today, win game 1, and we'll see what happens the rest of the week as well. We'll talk more postseason baseball tomorrow on the show as well. We want to thank all of our sponsors for everything they do for us, allowing us to do this show each and every day at 10 a.m. It's been a bunch of fun. Thank you guys for watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We will be back tomorrow with a brand new show. Take care.